day. Welcome to Music Motors. Welcome to this 2021 Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid. A powered by 1.4 litre petrol engine. This produces around about 130 PS, 235 Newton meters of torque. It's got a 0 to 60 time of 9.1 seconds, but you will see faster. Top speed of 130 miles an hour. Now all of this, whilst still having that engaging fun drive and costing just over £20,000 on the road. This one's finished in pure white pearlescent. Really, really lovely colour, especially when the light hits it just right. But this is a new variant. This is the hybrid, where they're saying that, you know, there's more torque than ever before from about 2,000 RPM and a 6% economy increase. But with all that, has that detracted from the drivability, the fun factor that made Suzuki Swift Sports so much fun to drive? So in this episode of Music Motors, that's what I'm going to find out by putting the 2021 Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid to the Music Motors test. Now, outside, there haven't been huge differences, because realistically the last iteration upgrade has actually been pretty substantial, let's be totally honest. But what that new iteration has given us is a nice sleek and sharp front end with nice curves and sweeping lines just where we want them to be. Also LED daytime running lights and a really lovely light cluster, a grille that isn't too BMW, and a front end that just really does look very, very sporty. The side profile is really quite nicely done and really does give quite a sporty suggestion of aesthetic, with, especially from that front line round to the side, you've got a kind of fake carbon fibre look going on at the lower sill, really giving that kind of sporty aesthetic. Really quite nice. 17-inch diamond cut alloys also kind of finish that whole side detail off for me quite well. Design-wise, the side is kind of unique in that it doesn't look like anything else realistically on sale that isn't a Swift, or at the very least a Suzuki, because it's very much their design language. Unlike when you look at things within the Volkswagen Audi group, where yeah, the cars are unique but they have similarities, there really isn't anything that is similar to this, which is quite nice. Now the back end, twin tailpipes, great little addition. They're not necessarily very loud, but it's a nice sporty addition. The lines kind of come together quite nicely. Good light design, little spoiler, cool little rear diffuser. Generally the whole exterior package is quite nice. It's shouty without being too shouty, if that makes sense. If you didn't know what you were looking at, realistically you probably think this was just, you know, a more sporty S-line type of Swift. But to the die-hard car fans, you look at this and go, oh no, that's a Swift Sport.
Town fuel economy, relatively important because this is kind of a city car. So this is based on how it deals with potholes, how it deals with tighter turns, and the general things that a city test should have, including MPG. Very importantly, miles per gallon. So let's find out how it does. So that was a surprising 47 miles to the gallon, and the big thing is this doesn't feel like a big car. And even though the wheels are quite low profile when it comes to city driving and potholes and rubbish road surfaces, it doesn't actually get very uncomfortable in here. It takes that abuse pretty well. Visibility is relatively good, and the nip is more than enough. This mid-range torque is pretty blooming good. The sound quality is great. But that fuel economy is just unquestionably good as a city car. When you put this up against, you know, even an Abarth 595, 135 or 140 brake, it's the closest you're going to get really. They still don't achieve that around town. They get that on the motorway. And yeah, fair enough, this can't get much more than that on the motorway, or maybe you can get a lot more if you drive at like 50. But in real world, that's really alarmingly good that this got that fuel economy.
Inside is where Suzuki have always done a pretty good job, if design-wise maybe slightly behind the times. And I mean that in the regards of, this is absolutely chock full of technology, but it wouldn't really be glaringly obvious at the first look where it actually is. You've got automatic headlights, as in to turn themselves on. You've got automatic high beam. You've got lane keep assist. You've got sort of automatic-ish windscreen wipers. You've got literally so much at your fingertips, like even the cruise control. The cruise control is like radar guided cruise control, which also means you get that forward collision assist. type system, so you're not going to be ramming it into the back of anyone. DAB radio, Apple CarPlay, a reasonable sound system. The only thing this really doesn't have from an interior point of view is heated seats, and really that's about it. Pretty impressive if you ask me. From the driver's position, the visibility is pretty good. Yeah, the front end does kind of drop off quite aggressively at the front, but by no means is that something you are going to struggle to deal with. It's very, very easy to get used to. The visibility is very, very good from the front. Front seats, extremely comfortable. They are an absolute bliss to be in. They really, really are. Now, rear seat wise, especially considering how small this car is on the outside, you actually have a reasonable amount of legroom, a good amount of headroom. You've got ISOFIX, which means from that family point of view, well, this is starting to tick boxes as an everyday kind of car. Get to the boot, yeah, sure, it's not class leading, but it will take more than you can throw at it within reason. It's got a really, really, really good amount of space, quite a deep boot, quite wide, not too much wheel ingress. Pretty reasonable if I'm going to be totally honest. The interior at motorway speeds is quite quiet. You've got automatic climate control, and it doesn't tire you out. Normally smaller cars, low profile wheels, you end up becoming a little bit tired just because of how much noise ingress comes into the cabin from the tarmac, and this just does a really good job at not being too OTT. Yeah, you're going to get a bit, but all things considered, it's very comfortable to do long distance drives in this car. Everything is within reason at your fingertips, and anything that isn't at your fingertips isn't a million miles away. That was my one issue with the across, however you say it. Sometimes to reach some stuff onto the infotainment screen was a little bit far across. And speaking of the infotainment screen, hasn't had too much of an update recently, but it does have Apple CarPlay and DAB, and the design is just a little bit old. The pixels aren't like hugely high quality. But then again, this car costs about £20,000 on the road, all in, exactly as you see it. So that's kind of quite acceptable.
Right, Motorway Economy, time to see what we can turn around on the motorway. Sat at a solid 65 miles an hour for most of the duration. There's going to be a little bit of town just before and a little bit of town just after. So I suppose you could call it combined, but this is purely just kind of find out what we can get on the motorway, how comfortable it is, how it drives, all those standard motorway tests. Let's go. So some 30 odd miles later, and to be fair, with some overtakes and fluctuating between that 65 and 70 miles an hour, I've got 51 miles to the gallon. Now, this doesn't feel small. It only weighs just over a ton, but it doesn't feel it on the motorway. It actually feels pretty planted. It doesn't get affected by wind. The pickup with that kind of mid-range torque is immediate if you need to go for something, so long as you don't want it to rev beyond like 5,000 RPM. It's pretty comfortable. Visibility is actually relatively good, although you sat back and there is a bit of a blind spot here. From a motorway test point of view, that was good economy. It was quite comfortable. It's very quiet on the inside. Infotainment's pretty easy to use. Smash that.
Now, performance powered by that 1.4 litre petrol engine, producing that 130-ish PS. Different places say it's different, like numbers. Some people reported 127 PS, some people 132, some 129, so let's just say 130-ish. 235 Newton meters of torque, a 0 to 60 time in 9.1, the top speed of 130. Now let's start with that 0 to 60 time, because this is a hybrid-ish, and it's kind of got that hybrid torque. It's quite impressive just how fast this can actually get to 62, and it is without question faster than 9.1. So long as you're changing up early enough to ensure that the electric motors are still able to produce a little bit of power, like above about 5,000 RPM, you're not really getting much from the motor. The acceleration is really quite good and very responsive, and not what you expect when you consider the older one was just a nice torque the whole way through. This has a real boost in the mid-range. It's quite impressive. Gearbox is quite nice, though it does have a bit of a throw. When it's cold in the morning, it can be a little bit notchy at times, but not terrible. And by new car standards, I've driven considerably worse in the last year as manual cars go. Now, the steering is quite light, but does give you a good amount of input, relatively direct, not overbearingly intense with information, but it does a reasonably good job of keeping you informed as to what's going on the road. The throttle response, as I said, is very good. Like, the second you touch it, even in a low gear like this, the turbo spools straight up, the electric motor kicks in, and boom, you're accelerating straight away. And the brake feels genuinely really nice, and these are punchy. So punchy, in fact, you'll set off the hazard lights a lot. One thing I did find is that heel toe and rev match downshifting was actually quite a breeze. It was a lovely experience in this within about, 2 hours of driving it. Economy wise, so Suzuki are claiming that WLTP you're going to see 50 miles to the gallon, and at the very low, like the low, you're going to see about 37. Totally achievable, because on a run you'll easily see 50 miles to the gallon. Now, they actually say on a good run you're going to see as much as about 57 to the gallon, and to be fair, depending on the run that you're on, I can actually believe that's achievable, but around town you'll never ever see less than about 37. What it says in front of me, 41.5 miles to the gallon. That's all based on town driving, and I've been having fun. I've been hooning it up to the legal speed limits. So economy wise, pretty blooming impressive as well. 6% increase on the previous version as well. The big thing is that because this is not a massively high power car, you can enjoy this around town. You can enjoy this on back roads without breaking speed limits. You can just kind of drive it a bit like it's a giant go-kart, which is just blissful fun, and seriously makes this such a fantastic drive, because you're so rarely having to consider how fast you're going. Because yeah, this could easily break the speed limit, but you'll have bundles of fun just getting up to it. Sure, it's got its lift off oversteer moments, and it's a very light car. This weighs just over a ton, so really you can come unstuck very quickly if you push too hard through a corner, but I think it's a very good balanced dynamic. So aesthetically, Suzuki have made this a fantastic looking car. Genuinely, this colour's amazing, and actually, all things considered, hides the dirt pretty blooming well. The interior is packed full of technology, it's very comfortable, the seats are very holding, and it gives you everything that you need, although perhaps the design of the interior could be slightly updated. That's about it. Performance and economy wise, this just gives you proper miles per gallon as well as miles per gallon, and to get both under one roof, in one car, is so difficult and so rare to find. Really, the only thing you compare this to is Abarth and like Fiesta ST, but then again, the Fiesta ST is going to quickly put you over the speed limit, where this doesn't quite as quickly, but this gives you just as much fun in drive. So Suzuki for the 2021 Swift Sport Hybrid, what an exceptional piece of kit. Like, genuinely, one of the best cars that I think money can buy.